मंडलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनं शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री। So the subject given to me today to speak is wisdom of the Rishis. You don't have to define the word Rishi. Very often when you say Rishi, people have given a religious connotation. Rishi is the ancient scientist who dwelled into the mysteries of life and figured out who we are, where we are, what is our connection with the world, is there a reality beyond what we see. Such a great being was called a Rishi. Every mantra in the Vedas is supposed to have originated from a great Rishi. The most important mantra of the Rig Veda, for instance, the Gayatri Mantra, was revealed to the great Rishi Vishwamitra. Now, in Sanskrit, every word has a meaning. There is no meaningless noun. Every noun is made up of a verb, action. It is an ancient language which unfortunately has been so neglected that we often have to go by the interpretations given to us by somebody else, because we can't look into the matter ourselves. Now Vishwamitra means Vishwa, universe, and Mitra, friend of the universe. Therefore, personally, I believe that this great mantra is for the whole world. Rishi himself is Vishwamitra. Now, these are some of the aspects which we will try to look in today. It is not possible in an hour's lecture to cover the wisdom of the Rishis. This is an impossible task. But we have to start somewhere and move along. Now when we say wisdom of the Rishis, we are talking about the distilled wisdom, the pure wisdom that has been given to us over 2000 years ago at a very conservative estimate. And it mainly occurs in those great texts called the Upanishads. You know, I don't know if many of you, I'm sure many of you are aware that there are 4 Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda and Atharvana. The only difficulty is most people think that when we say Vedas, it refers only to the Samhita portion, which means the hymns of the Vedas. The fact is, when you say Vedas, it means 1, the Samhita portion, 2, the Brahmanas, which describe the ceremonies and the rituals to be performed, and the Aranyakas, which were taught in the forests, in the Aranyas, which is forests. In the forest academies, the great Rishis taught pure wisdom to those who would go to them. These are the Aranyakas. And the last part are the Upanishads. When you read, you will see that from Aranyakas, there is an imperceptible movement into the Upanishadic literature. Now the Upanishads therefore form the last part of the Vedas. It is all Veda. From the Upanishad to the Samhita portion, it is all Vedas. And each Upanishad is attached to a particular Veda. Now, when it comes to the Upanishad, that is where the Mahavakyas like Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Prajnanam Brahma, Ayam Atma Brahma, these are the Mahavakyas. These are explained beautifully and one is made to understand first verbally and then on the intuitive level, what these expressions are. Now this is the work of the Upanishads. Therefore, they are called the wisdom section of the Vedas, the Jnana Kanda of the Vedas. Now, the Upanishads themselves were taught by the great Rishis to students who were qualified to learn. Everybody is first of all not interested in the Upanishads. You ask young people in the college, Upanishads, why Upanishads? Economic theory, finance, now computer science, everybody is into software. At one time when we were young, either everybody became doctors or engineers or joined the administrative service. Now it's become software, hardware, all these kind of things. Now, but there are some people who ponder over the mysteries of life and say, is there something beyond, or is this all there is to life? Shall we find out? How do we find out? Such students who are referred to as aptas, one who want to understand, they went to these great Rishis, sat with them, lived with them, and learned the Upanishads. This is the subject matter of the Upanishad. Now, before we go into this, because when you say wisdom of the Rishis, the most important reference should be given to the Upanishads. Now, the word Upanishad has to be examined first, what it means. And the fact that it is called Vedanta, why? Upanishad is called Vedanta because the Upanishad portions come at the end part of the Vedas. Therefore, they are called Vedantas. There is another reason why they are called Vedanta, because the Rishis said, once the wisdom that's given in the Upanishad is understood, there is nothing more to be understood. So therefore, they end up learning. It's not that you don't learn anything, but you don't derive anything out of learning anything more. You're finished. This is another reason why the Upanishads are called Vedanta. Now, the word Upanishad needs to be looked into very carefully. It consists of 3 syllables. Upa, Ni, and Shat. These are the 3 syllables that form the Upanishad. Upa means near, N-E-A-R, or close, C-L-O-S-E, move closer. Now there is a lot of meaning behind this. One is that this was learned in close proximity with the teacher. Not like this, you're sitting on a platform and you're sitting down. Close proximity in the sense that it's basically a one-to-one. The student and the teacher sat together close to each other and learned. Therefore, it was not done with a microphone. It was done one-to-one and almost whispered, so it is called Rahasya. The great Rahasya was taught. Also because most people are not interested in the Upanishadic teachings. In fact, when people want to understand philosophy and they say the first thing I want to do is to learn the Ashtavakra Gita or the Yoga Vasishta. I tell them, please read other things before you go there, because if you go there, you might probably end up as a complete skeptic and completely confused. So, Upanishads were taught in close proximity with the student. That is one meaning. The other meaning is, unless and until the frequency of the teacher and the frequency of the mind of the taught are in synchronized with each other, these things cannot be understood. So they are very subtle truths. They are not something very gross. And they are not any kind of a sale. It's not a give and take. It is not a business. It's something to do with very subtle levels of understanding. Therefore, the rapport between the teacher and the taught has to be very, very close, near to each other. Therefore, it was called Upa, near. The third meaning is, you can only go as near as possible to the truth. You cannot jump into the truth, you can go as, because we all have limited minds. Our minds are very limited. Our brains are very conditioned and limited. Therefore, if a conditioned mind can merge with the unconditional reality, suppose, theoretically, then that reality cannot be unconditional reality. It has to be a conglomeration of conditioned realities. So therefore, the maximum that can be achieved is that one can go close to the truth. When we go very close to the truth, the heat and the energy are such that we no longer remain. We are burnt off totally. What remains is only the truth. As long as I am there, there is no that. When that is there, I am not. Therefore, then there is no two there. So therefore, as far as the verbal understanding of the reality is concerned, we can go only as near as possible. Because the Upanishad itself declares, Yad vaja nabhyutitam yanavaga abhyutyate. That means that which words cannot conceive of and cannot understand. Because of which the words develop their capacity to express themselves. That is the supreme meaning. Therefore, the words can only go as close as possible. This is another reason why it is Upa. Now, the central word, next word is Ni. But I will leave the Ni for the time being and go to Shad. Now, Shad, in a sense, Shad means to sit. So right now, we are in the Upanishadic mode because we are sitting down. Shad. Now, sitting down does not only involve physically sitting down. I am sure by the time it is 8 o'clock, many of us will be sitting here, but our minds will be somewhere else. How to get back home? Will there be traffic? Is the car parked? It is Kaliyug. Will the car be there when we get back? All these things. The fact. So, Shad need not necessarily only the physical sitting down. It also means that the mind has to sit down, settle down. Unless the mind sits down or settles down, these things cannot be understood. It's a fact. We all will agree with this. Not only enough to sit down. Now Adi Shankara, while commenting on the Upanishad, also said, gave another meaning to Shad. He said, Shad means to shake up. To shake up. To shake up means, one, to shake us up from the sleep of ignorance into wakefulness. That is one meaning. The other is to shake us up from the ordinary framework of logic which we create for ourselves. From the thinking that this world is the only real thing that exists. Somewhere along the line this has to be shaken up. Usually life's experiences sometimes shake us up, even without studying Vedanta. When we think that we are at the top of the world, we have achieved everything, suddenly something happens and we realize that this is not perfect. There must be something else. This is imperfect. This happens. So this is one. Shaking up means to shake up from the sleep of ignorance. Shaking up means to redefine our boundaries, to move from the framework which we have created. We all say, I have a rational framework. I have created a rational framework. And I am a very rational woman. Fine, it's good to be rational. But we have to sometimes examine if this thing which we call our rational framework is really an absolute entity or a temporary and a comparative entity. This is a very important thing to note. When Shankara says shake up means turn it upside down and look. This is what the Zen monks do by uttering apparently contradictory sentences. To shake up one's logic, because in this matter of intuition, 2 plus 2 may not always be 4, it can be 5. It can't be in Newtonian physics, but in quantum physics it is possible. So, this shaking up. Now, about this framework. what we call our rational framework, which we have created. Now, how do we create a rational framework? The only instruments of perception that we have, all of us, are the five senses. We don't have any other instrument of perception. Eyes, hearing, etc. The five senses, Indriya, Panchendriyas, are the only instruments which provide data for us. Now, using this data, the mind manufactures a rational framework. And we say, this is my rational framework. If you look carefully, when we were a small child, when we used to go to school, we had a rational framework created out of our experiences during that period, which we thought was absolute. Then we grew up and found that, no, there is more to it. Our rational framework changed. It keeps on changing depending upon the inputs, the data. Unfortunately, the only data available to all of us is through the five senses. And the data available to the five senses is not only limited, it is also sometimes misleading. It may be what we think is right, which may not be right. Simple example. Every morning we see the sun rise. And every evening we see the sunset. But the schoolboy knows that the sun neither rises nor sets. But we depend on our sense organs, which is sight. The sun is actually rising and setting. Is that dependable? It's a whole subject called optical illusions to study. What we think is straight may be bent, and so on and so forth. So all we are trying to say here is that the data which comes through the sense organs is very limited, and therefore our rational framework is made out of this data, so it's bound to be imperfect some way or the other. The great teachers, the Rishis, the yogis, they said there are other instruments of perception in the human system which are normally latent, not awakened, dormant. If this, as the next step of evolution, can be activated through various means, then our inputs become more. Our inputs become multi-dimensional. When the inputs become multi-dimensional, then our rational framework is an entirely different rational. So, to understand this, first we have to shake ourselves up from the feeling that this is a perfect rational framework that we have created. And also that we live in a world which will always remain. Even if the house that we build remains for many years, after some years we will go away. It's a fact. House may be there, but we will go. House also may not be there. After some time it will get destroyed. But even if it is not destroyed, we are not there. So, to shake us up from this dream that everything is hunky-dory and we are in, this is also called Shat. Because from one point of view, you look at the world in a completely upside-down fashion. We will come to that after some time. There is a beautiful description of an upside-down people tree in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 15. Urdhva Moolam Matashakam Ashwattham Paravrabhya. There is an Ashwatha tree which is Urdhva Moolam, whose roots are up above and branches down below. Chandamsi Yasya Paranani Astam Vedasa Vedavat. He who understands the leaves understands the teaching of the Vedas, the essence of the Vedas. Or who understands true wisdom. It means studies, understand. So, this turning things around a bit and shaking them up is also Shat. So, Upanishad also performs that function. Then the word Ni, which is in the middle, which connects Upa and Shat. Now, Ni means it relates to the level between the teacher and the taught. Physically, this is Ni now. I am sitting up and you are sitting down below. The Hindi word Niche comes from the root Ni, which means below. What it means is that the student who goes to the Rishi to study the, not to me please, who goes to the Rishi to study the Upanishad has to first understand that he does not know. He must know that I do not know, because if I begin something by saying I know, then there is no inquiry whatsoever. So first I should say, well, I don't know, let me find out. Now therefore that comes only out of great humility, otherwise it cannot come. Now that positioning of the student who says, I do not know, let me understand, and keeps himself free and leaves enough space to understand when something comes, that is the word defined by me. You also know that even in ordinary terms, if you have to fill something into a vessel, two conditions are necessary. One is it has to be empty. Second, it has to be kept down. You cannot fill any vessel like this. So this is me, the receiver, right? Because normally there is so much material here that it is difficult for intuition or subtle matters to enter. They have to be emptied in some way before one begins to sit down and understand. There is this story, I don't have to repeat it because some of us have heard this from me many times, because it is such an apt story that I cannot resist from repeating. It seems a very learned professor once went to a Zen master. You know what is Zen? The Japanese method of meditation is called Zen. It's not Japanese, it came from Japan. Actually it didn't come from Japan, it is exported from here. Once upon a time, a great Tamil South Indian monk called Bodhidharma taught a particular brand of Buddhist teaching which laid great stress on dhyana, meditation. He took it to China when he went. They say that he also took Kalarippai to China when he went, which is the martial art form of Kerala and Tamil Nadu, all those borders. Unarmed combat, which is the mother of karate. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So, when Bodhidharma went to China, he taught this particular brand of Buddhism, laying great stress on meditation, dhyana. Now in Chinese language, dhyana became chan. And when it went to Japan, it became Zen. It's been exported and then imported back. We always do that. We get cashew, clean it in Koiron and export it back. So, but the thing is, when it comes from Japan, people are more interested than when it goes from here. Unfortunately, I don't know why. It has to get some kind of an export mark before people accept it. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa knew this very well. He said, once somebody came to him and said, the Bhagavad Gita is a very beautiful book, you have to read it. So Sri Ramakrishna tells someone sitting near him, for 20 years I have been telling the gentleman to read the Gita. Now some Englishman must have told him that it is a good book. So it is always there. Anyway, so this learned professor, great professor, who had lot of knowledge of many things, went to a Zen master to learn Zen. So he said to him, sir, please teach me Zen. Teach me how to attain Saturi. Saturi is Nirvana. Zen. So the Zen master, instead of answering him directly, went and made some tea for him. He brought some tea and started pouring it into the glass. So he filled it, and after it was full, he continued pouring the tea. So soon the tea started flowing down from the tablecloth. So after some time the professor said, the tea is flowing, overflowing. So the master told the professor, Your mind is overflowing. How can I give you Zen? Because if you put Zen inside, that will also come out. It's already full. So this is me. This attitude of trying to understand, for which first we have to say, okay, I may be knowing certain things, but let me keep it apart now. Because the Upanishad is a one-to-one. It's not a mass phenomenon. You cannot teach the Upanishads en mass. It is not possible. So, Upanishad. This is the essentially the Upanishad. And the wisdom of the Rishis is fully in the Upanishads. Since we are on that subject, I must tell you something very interesting. That the first translation of the Upanishads into any language other than Sanskrit was made by an unfortunate brother of Aurangzeb called Darashiko, who was murdered. And Darashiko Aurangzeb had a very good reason to kill him. He said, this man has become an infidel, he is because. So there is good reason to finish him off. So it was Darashiko who translated the Upanishads. If you go to Srinagar, across the Dal Lake, there is a place called Pari Mahal, where he used to gather scholars together and translate it into Persian and Arabic. That was how the Upanishad knowledge went to the West. It went to Greece first, because they were traveling. And the Greeks looked at it and said, oh my God, so much wisdom here. So they thought these guys were all savages wearing a loincloth and sackcloth and walking around. And then the first Greek translation of the Upanishad came by DuPont, which was called Upanishad. And the first English translation was made by Raja Ram Roy. So this is the Upanishad. Now, since we have generally looked at the Upanishad, it's a good idea to examine some Upanishads. Now there are many Upanishads. Out of that, there are 10 which are called the principal Upanishads. They are called principal Upanishads because all the Acharyas have written commentaries on them. Starting with Adi Shankara, who while writing his commentaries, there must have existed other commentaries before him, because somewhere he laments that somebody has twisted it this way, that way. We don't have any extent, but we have Adi Shankara's first Karikas on the Upanishad. Then Ramanujacharya, he also commented on the Upanishads. Madhva commented on the Upanishads, Nimbarka, Vallabha, and anybody in between. These are the principal Upanishads, 10 or 11 in number, some say 10, some say 11. And these are the Kena Upanishad, Ishavasya Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, Prashna Upanishad. There are 3 more, anybody can supply. Brihadaranyaka, I forgot that. Brihadaranyaka is one of the biggest of Upanishads. Like its name, it's a big forest. If you don't go in without a proper guide, like a maze, you may go round and not be able to come out. Brihadaranyaka. So, these are the principal Upanishads. Now, out of these, we will look at 1 or 2 in short, so we have an idea of what they deal with. Let's take the Kena Upanishad, or let's take the Ishavasya Upanishad. Ishavasya Upanishad is one of the short Upanishads from the Yajurveda, and it has, I think, only 20 slokas or so. And it starts with this beautiful sloka. Ishavashyamidam sarvam kirkinja jagatyam jagat yena jagatena nundita ma grida kasya svidhanam. Mahatma Gandhi loved this Upanishad because he said this is an Upanishad which says don't run away, stay where you are and do some work. Ishavashyamidam sarvam, that supreme reality here referred to as Isha. Vashyamidam sarvam pervades everything here. That idam is very important. Here, it is not an otherworldly thing. It will happen when we die and go on. Ishavasya idam sarvam. Everything that is here, you, me, this, that, It is all pervaded by that Supreme Being. Yatkincha jagatyam jagat. In everything that moves, which is the Supreme, which is the whole world. Jagatyam jagat. This jagat or this world is called jagat because it is jagatyam, means which moves. Jagatyam means movement. Now if you carefully look, there is not a single thing that does not move. Everything is in constant motion. There is nothing that is not moving. Time. Nobody can stop it. My Guru Babaji used to tell me, when you eat your food, remember that time is eating you. True. You cannot change it. Always moving. Change. What is change other than movement? In fact, the only changeless thing on earth is change. Everything else will change. Then, material objects which you think are not moving, any normal scientist will tell you that they are always in motion. Nothing is steady. Inside there is infinite movement going on. And as far as the human body is concerned, every day millions of cells are born and millions are destroyed. Although we like to think that we are carrying the same body always. Then the mind, that we don't have to mention at all, it's constantly moving. 1 second you cannot hold it down, it's constantly moving. So, because this whole world is in motion, it is called Jagat, because it is Jagatyam, that which moves. The Upanishad says, in all that world, which is constantly in motion, it is pervaded by that supreme reality, which is the only center. The only thing that remains in this whole movement, permeating and pervading everything, is that Isha. Isha avasyamidam sarvam kincha jagatyam. Then the next. Tena tyaktena bhanjita. Therefore, ma agrida tasya svittana. If the supreme reality pervades everything here, you, me and everything, and it is only the supreme reality which is pervading here, therefore, why are you hanging on to things? Because it is bound to change, and it is all one. Tena tyaktena bhanjita. So let go and rejoice. Bhunjita means rejoice. Tena tyaktena, that to let go and then to rejoice. We have been taught from childhood that to be happy you have to gather. Gather. Until we don't know how much we have gathered, the white hands have eaten it, we don't know anything. We gather constantly thinking that gathering is going to help us. So Upanishad is talking absolutely upside down. Tena tyaktena bhunjita, let go and rejoice. Now this let go also in the psychological point of view is a very important thing to note. If one has to maintain sthita prajna, one has to maintain our mind in calm and quiet and tranquility, we have to let go and move forward. When a person is schizophrenic, one of the greatest problems is he cannot let go. Same thought keeps occurring again and again. We would have forgotten, but he cannot forget. That's called an obsession. But unfortunately, to some extent, we are all obsessed with things. I'm including me, we are all. So, let go. Now, let go psychologically means, suppose some years ago, you have twisted my ear or given me a slap. Now, how long does it last? 1 day? 2 days? Generally, it lasts only for a few hours. Once the red color is gone, we are free. But, do we allow it to go? No. We will keep it in our mind, which is like a constant cassette, running again and again and again. That fellow slap me, especially if it is in public. Till I get back to him and give him a slap. This will go on. Can we let go of it? If you let go, then you really rejoice. When we go to sleep at night, is it possible to put everything to bed and get up in the morning and it's all finished? And think that the whole reality, the supreme essence of all existence is all pervading. It's not limited to you or to me. It's everywhere. Ma gridha kasya svidhanam. Whose wealth is this anyway? When we look outside and see the beautiful trees and the beautiful flowers, isn't it also a manifestation of that supreme reality? Should we own it to enjoy it? The idea is not in appreciating and enjoying something. The problem begins when we want to own it. There is a story about George Bernard Shaw, who is supposed to have been very fond of flowers. So a journalist went to interview him. He went to his house. She could not find flowers in a single flower vase anywhere inside. So she asked him, we heard that you are very fond of flowers, but I don't see any flowers in your house, in any vase. What has happened? He opened the window and said, look outside. My garden is full of flowers. I love flowers. I also love children, but I don't cut their heads and put them in vases. The whole problem is owning. It's not enjoying, possessing. The Upanishad says, if you want to understand that supreme reality which pervades everywhere, let go. Which means move from your own center, expand. Let everyone be part of you, which is what the Upanishad is declaring, that it is an all-pervading reality. And it says in the next sloka that if you live as we have said in the first sloka, Jivisheta Satam Samha, you can live for 100 years and do all your karmas na karma lipyate nare, without allowing the blots of the karma to stick on you. You just understand this. This is, I'm just giving you, we can't do the whole, then we have to take about 4 days and do one Upanishad. That would be great. Hopefully sometime we can do it. Then it goes on, and then there are some slokas which describe the supreme reality by breaking up our logic. The shaking up takes place. For instance, in one part of the Ishavasya Upanishad describing that supreme reality, it says, Tad dure tad padantige. It is far and yet it is so near. Now that cannot happen to an object. This table has to be either near or it has to be far. It cannot be far and near at the same time. So they are talking about the inner essence of all, which is here and there and everywhere. This is how the Upanishad begins. Now another example, the Kena Upanishad. The Kena Upanishad is from the Samaveda, and the Samaveda is a very, very important Veda. All music that we have today has come its roots in the Samaveda. Nobody chants the Samaveda. Sama Gayatri, they sing the Samaveda. Samaveda is music. Here we are surrounded by all the joys of music sitting. I've been looking from the time I came. Samaveda, it is from the Samaveda that the Kena Upanishad comes. Kena Upanishad. Now imagine an Upanishad which at a very reasonable estimate is at least 2000 years old, starting with the name Kena, means who. So if you translate it to English, it will be who Upanishad. Who Upanishad. The central question asked is, who is it? Who are you? Are you this body? Are you this personality which has been created by ourselves through circumstances also? Or is there something in us which is other than that? Who are you? What is your true essence? Where do you come from? It's a beautiful Upanishad. Kene Shidam Patati Prasidam Manaha Kena Prana Pradama Preti Yukta Kene Shidam Vacham Vima Vadanti Chakshut Chotram Garudeya Vipranti. Who? Kene Shidam Patati Prasidam Manaha. Who is it that gives the first impulse of thought? Kena Prana Pradama Preti Yukta. Who is the one who initiates the first movement of life? Who is it? that speaks when you speak, gives meaning to the words. Otherwise, you have to give meaning to a word. If I talk to you in Chinese and if you don't know the language, you will only hear it, there is no meaning. Not just the word. So who is it that understands? Who is it that gives meaning to the word? Chakshut, Shotram, Chakshut, eyes, Shotram, ears, Chakshut, Shotram, Kapudeva Yunaki. When I say I see, who is it that actually sees? When I say I hear, who is it that actually hears? Now this is very simple. In the Upanishads it has been mentioned hundreds of years ago. But this is something which now today in the world the scientists and the neurologists are researching on still, saying who is that unifying identity which combines all our experiences and makes us into what we are. I have some good friends in this field with whom I have these dialogues. You must have heard of V.S. Ramchandran, a great neurologist who has written a book called Phantoms in the Brain. Second to none is in San Diego, almost comparable to Oliver Sacks. The question according to him now is, what is that unifying element which combines all these experiences and makes you into one thing, into a unit? Upanishad has asked this question, who is this that is the controlling factor? Who is it that is the real personality behind it? Who is it that sees when I say I see? That is one. Then you come to another Upanishad, which is Mandukya. Please, this is bit by bit because this is not an Upanishadic dialogue. We are just discussing the wisdom of the Rishis. Mandukya. Mandukya is the shortest Upanishad that we have. It has only 12 slokas. And it does not deal with what you should do, what you should not do, nothing. It deals with the different states of consciousness, which is common to all human beings. And the root of all these states of consciousness starts with the understanding that Om is split into 3 syllables of A, O and N. Normally, it is defined as creation, preservation and destruction. A, O and N. But the Mundaka Upanishad says A represents the Jagrata Avastha, waking state of human beings, of all of us. U represents the Swapna Avastha, Tejasa, which is also common to all of us. Ma represents the Shushupti or deep sleep, which is also common to all of us. And the Ardha Matra, when you chant Om, Om, it slowly goes on like the ringing of a bell. That Ardha Matra, the dot on top, that represents Turiya, or the base of all these states of consciousness, the witness to all these states of consciousness, which remains a witness and does not undergo any change. And the Upanishad says that is what you are at. This is the whole of the Mandaka Upanishad. 12 slokas, everything is put. Now to make it clear, I would like to tell you a small story about how the great King Janaka was considered a Rishi. Janaka was called a Raja Rishi, one who was a king as well as a great Rishi. His guru, teacher, was Yajnavalkya, the great Rishi Yajnavalkya. You will encounter him in many places in the Upanishad. You will find him in the Brihadaranyaka, find him in many. One day, the great King Janaka has a dream. He dreams that he has become a beggar. So in his dream he is a beggar. He is hungry, his clothes are torn, he has a begging bowl in his hand and is going around suffering, want of food. Then he wakes up. He wakes up and finds that he is in his palace, in his bed, and the king. So it occurs to him, what is this mystery now? That time I thought I was a beggar. So when Yajnavalkya comes, he asks him, please explain this to me, sir. Just now I dreamt that I was a beggar and I wake up and I find myself king. What if this dream had stretched for long? Would I have remained a beggar? And what is the definition, what is the guarantee that I am a king now is not a dream? Maybe I will wake up from this and find that I am something else. Please explain to me this situation. This is what the Mundaka Upanishad is about. It says, it tries to show us that behind the personalities which we have, which are all distinct, different, there is an inner essence of consciousness which is common to all and which by its very nature is blissful, free and liberated. While the personalities are different, the inner essence is not different. You must understand that the word personality comes from the Greek word persona. And persona in Greek means a mask. So we all wear a mask. Ravana had 10 masks, Dashamukha. So we all wear these masks, these personalities we are. Now behind the personality there is a reality. This is what the Upanishad is looking for. That reality behind this mask, behind this personality. If I do, somebody is a very good actor and does his role to perfection, it's wonderful, great. But after leaving the shooting, if he goes home and still believes that he is that personality, he would be taken to an asylum. Unfortunately, we are living like that. We are caught up in the personality, we have forgotten the essence. The Upanishad says, points out, okay, do your work to perfection, but remember that you are different. Now, like that, there are many. Then there is the Mundaka Upanishad, there is the Mandukya Upanishad. Mundaka Upanishad is also beautiful. One thing I take out from the Mundaka for you. Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, referring to those who have so much theoretical knowledge, Panditas, they are called, and think that they know the truth because they have so much knowledge, theoretical knowledge, without actual anubhav. When the Upanishad refers to such, says that when such people begin to guide you to the truth, then the Upanishad defines it as andeineva niyamanaya tanda. It's like the blind leading the blind. Now I must quote another little beautiful thing from Mundaka Upanishad. Mundaka Upanishad is a very famous, well-known, important principal Upanishad. It refers to Mundana, one whose head is shaved, for the great one who has given up everything. Mundaka. Now Mundaka Upanishad also, the beginning says that there are two kinds of knowledge, Paravidya and Aparavidya. So, the Mundaka Upanishad itself gives a list of what it calls Paravidya and what it is called Aparavidya. Paravidya means the greatest knowledge. Aparavidya means knowledge which is not so great, which is ordinary. Now here is the Mundaka Upanishad's list of Aparavidya. It starts like this: Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Dharmaveda, Jyotisha, Aparavidya. Now that doesn't mean you shouldn't study it, because if you don't study it, you don't know that it is written there. But it says that is still Aparavidya. Then what is Paravidya? That which leads you to the Supreme Reality, no matter what it is. Which means even if you know all this, if your intention is not to find the Supreme Reality, then you are still in the level of Aparavidya. That's what it means. Now, Katha Upanishad. Katha Upanishad is also a very, very beautiful Upanishad which tells the story of this young boy Nachiketas. It's a beautiful story. It illustrates the essence of the Upanishad. This young boy Nachiketas, who is the son of a great Rishi, he is watching his father performing a yajna. Yajna is performed, and the yajna is performed to find out, to get to immortality, to reach the heaven where death does not approach. This is the electricity. And while he is watching, the yajna is performed, while the brahmanas who came to perform the yajna are going away, Nachiketas finds that his father is gifting these brahmanas lame cows, blind cows, milkless cows, all second-hand products which cannot even be recycled. All these things he is giving away as gifts to the Brahmanas. So it occurs to this boy, the Upanishad says Shraddha entered, and he says, Father, Dad, what is this? What are you doing? You are giving all these useless things away as gifts. Is this a sacrifice? Because a sacrifice means to give away something that is most valuable to me. That is a sacrifice, not these things. I am your dearest, I am your only son, I am your dearest. Me being your dearest son, whom will you give me to? So when he keeps on asking this question 3 times, in exasperation, the father says, I will give you away to death. So he lands in Yama's country. Because when Rishi said it becomes the truth. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to say that if you don't say a single lie for 12 years, whatever you say, it will become truth. Very difficult. Especially in Kali. So he says, you go to death and he reaches death. Now the thing is, it was done suddenly, and Yama himself doesn't know that this boy has arrived. He has gone to collect other souls. So he has to sit in his waiting room for 3 days without food and water. So Yama arrives and feels very remorseful. Says, how can it be that a young brahmachari with a shining face, a seeker of truth, a pure man has come here and sat in my waiting room for 3 days without food or water. I consider it a great sin on my head. Yama himself. So, as a compensation, please ask me for 3 boons and I will give it to you. So he asked for 3 boons. One, of course, is that when I go back, my father will recognize me and his anger will be cooled. And granted. This is something a serious seeker should always think. But when he goes away, run away from home, and when you go back, you don't know if your father is going to beat you up or get you back. Personal experience. Very intelligent question. Please help me. When I go back, will my father accept me back and recognize me as the same person who went? Second, teach me that by which one reaches the higher heaven where there is no death. The inner fire that burns, the sacrifice of the fire by which one reaches the higher levels of consciousness. Granted. Not only granted, Yama says, because I am giving you this, I will also name it from now on. This sacrifice will be named as the Nachiketas sacrifice. Nachiketas. Okay, third question. Third boon. After death, some say that people are, some say they are not. Everybody dies. Is there some way to overcome death? Is there some way to immortality? Teach me this. How to reach Amrita? Amritya. No death. Yama says, look my dear fellow, this is a very difficult question. You ask me anything you want. You ask me for palaces and kingdoms, dancing girls. He actually offers dancing girls. Dancing girls and music bands, whatever you want. Any number of elephants and horses. Take whatever you want. Don't ask me this question. This question you please keep it, because it cannot be a difficult one. Nachiketas says, if it is so difficult, and if it is about death and immortality, there is no better teacher other than you to us. You are the Lord of death. I don't want any of your BMWs and Mercs. Please give me only this. Now this illustrates the sincerity of the student. Nachiketas is a symbol of a sincere spiritual seeker who goes with fuel in hand. You know, fuel in hand is a very important message. You will find in the Upanishads that when the student goes to the Rishi, he goes with fuel in hand. What does it mean, fuel in hand? Fuel fuel in hand doesn't mean to go with a burning stick of fire. It means you go at a young age when there is enough fuel to burn, not after everything is over. When there is no energy to meditate, how will we meditate? When we were young, we were using up all our energies for other things. Now we are retired, now I will see the Brahman. Now, when the brahmachari goes, he goes with enough fuel to burn, with material there. Otherwise, it's like giving away duplicate cows to the Brahmanas. So, he goes there looking for the truth. And look how sincere a student is. He is seeking nothing but the truth. These elephants and dancing and nothing tempts him. Lordship of the three worlds, I don't want any of these things. How many such sincere students are? Usually we go to a guru and please give me something. Shall I give you a mark? Yes. You may get, but you will miss the truth. So, that illustrates this real student in the Katha Upanishad. Now, for today, I will take up the example of one more Upanishad and then we will stop for the day. Because already I think it's 1 hour, and in such subjects, beyond 1 hour, the mind does not settle down. No shut. Now it is uttana, standing up. Uddishta. So, the last one I would like to mention is the Prashna Upanishad. Beautiful name, Prashna Upanishad. Upanishad, Prashna means question. Question Upanishad. In the Prashna Upanishad, 3 students, young students, who are the children of Rishis, they go to some other Rishi to learn the Upanishad. And they say, we are the sons of so and so, we have come here to understand the truth, please accept us as a disciple and teach us the truth. The answer is very interesting. Teacher says, live with me for 3 months. The first part of Prashna. Live with me for 3 months. At the end of it, I will teach you if I know. Not that, I know all that. You give me 5,000 rupees, I will immediately teach you. Please live with me for some time, for 3 months. 3 months is simply a symbolic, metaphoric, which means such things are learned by living with the teacher. By living with the teacher, understanding, spending some time with him, so that the frequency between you and the teacher becomes in rapport with each other, so that these things can be passed on. They are more between the words than words. And look at the humility of a great Rishi who says, at the end of 3 months, if I know, I will teach you. Plus, the understanding that one has to live with the teacher for some time. Now, why should one live with the teacher? One is that unless you live with the teacher, you will, when I say live with the teacher, it doesn't mean always sitting in his kitchen, in his bathroom and all that. What I mean is to keep in touch. That's what I mean. When you say live with the teacher, I think very soon some people will come and settle down in my house. And I might get a divorce notice from my wife. So that this is not what I mean. What I mean that to keep in touch with each other, satsanga, samparka. So it needs a length of time to do that. It is not as if it can be done in 2 days, as soon as you see. Then what happens? Slowly the teacher gets the opportunity to study the student and find out what is the best approach for the student to take, or is it possible at all in his given his present state. 2, if he finds that he is not the kind of teacher for this student, he will have the freedom to say, I am not the one, go somewhere else. Because a spiritual teacher is not in the business of collecting disciples. He is in the business of teaching truth, not business. effort of teaching. Therefore, if I cannot teach somebody, I should have no compunction to say, look, this is all I can do, please go somewhere else. In fact, it is better they go somewhere else. You are free for a while. Now, the third reason is, the student gets an opportunity to live with the teacher and figure out if it is his cup of tea, otherwise he can move. There is no bondage here. Perfect freedom and inquiry. So, the essence of the Upanishads, the wisdom given in the Upanishads by the great Rishis, which is the subject matter today, is well reflected in one of the dhyana slokas of the Ishavasya. Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat Purnamaduchyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vasishyate. That means, actually, in its true essence, everything is complete. Purna. Actually, I like the word Purna better than Shunya. I think when they said Shunya, they referred to Purna in a way, because Shunya really means that which cannot be defined. Actually, it is Purna, it's fullness. That fullness which is everywhere and all pervading is also, if it is all pervading, you are also part of it. That Purna, which means referring to the Supreme Reality. Purnamidam, this which you have is also Purna, because it is all one unit. It is not separate things. It's all one network, one thing. Purnamidam, Purnat Purnamaduchyate. When this Purna has at some point been taken away from that Purna, but nothing has happened. Purnameva Vasishyate. Still it remains Purna. Don't worry. This is the message. This is roughly 1% of the wisdom of the Rishis. 1%. It's not the whole thing. The whole thing is not something which can be just read or studied. It is something to go to a teacher and learn. Sitting down, trying to understand. Now I forgot one more reason to state about living at least for 3 months with the teacher. A sthita prajna, one whose consciousness or prajna has become sthita, who is not upset by grief nor exalted by too much happiness, who treats friend and foe alike, and who sees the supreme reality in all hearts. Such is called as sthita prajna. Now, unless you live with a person for a long time, you really have no way to find out if he is a sthita prajna. So it is very nice to sit in a public hall and smile. When I go out, and if somebody kicks me on the foot, then I will know how much sthita my prajna is. So when you be with a person and see how he behaves in different circumstances, then only you will know. My master, Babaji, used to say that if you meditate in a cave for 10 years, wonderful, your meditation is very deep and beautiful and so on. Then you say, now I am free of anger, I am free of jealousy. And they ask me, in the cave, what is there to be angry with? And who are you jealous with? The walls of the cave. You come out of there and get into a bus and somebody gives you one kick on your foot, then you will know if you have conquered your anger. So even if you have to go, periods of solitude is required to advance spiritually. It can be tested out only in communion with society. Only when you come out and touch and be with people, you can actually figure out where we stand. And if we have gone deep into the wisdom of the Rishis and seen that the same supreme reality is here, there and everywhere, then you have no reason to treat anybody in a bad way. You see the Antaryami sitting in the heart of all living beings. How can you do harm to someone? Not possible. And in if you don't harm somebody, then you are in peace. And if your happiness is gone long ago, there was another great yogi who lived in another part of the world. I always say that if he had lived in India, he would have been one of the avatars. He was a man who had no home, who wandered on the streets of Jerusalem, who declared that the snakes have holes and the foxes have dens, but I have no place to lay my head. Homeless, in contrast to whatever. Now, he says in one of the Sermon on the Mount, lay treasures in your heart where thieves do not break in and steal. Lay treasures in your heart where thieves do not break in and steal. And it is that heart which is referred to in the Bhagavatam, in the Kapila Upanishad, when Kapila teaches his mother saying, meditate on Sri Hari sitting inside your heart. Where all happiness and peace are inside. Now if one human being is a temple of the divine, all human beings must be a temple of the divine, whether they know it or not. If they don't know it, and if you know it, all human beings are gods. No matter what religion, what, so important. So this is roughly the subject of discussion, the talk. So thank you very much for sitting in silence